Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today we're taking a look at Destruction Battletome Orruk Warclans for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. One of the two newest Battletomes from Games Workshop. This was kindly sent me for free as a sample to review and to share with you guys. So let's check it out. This is the new school of Battletome for 3rd edition Age of Sigmar. Printed by Artron in China, a different company that printed the Stormcast book, and is a sort of like reimagining of what a Battletome is. It is going to have a new format, new stuff in it, and contain 136 pages compared to the last Orruk Warclans Battletome had 103, so 30 extra pages of stuff for all you Orc players. Now, as most Orc players that I know are Orc players for life, this is going to expand your collection with the Kruleboyz stuff that came in the 3rd edition starter set. Talk to you about what's been going on in the Mortal Realms, how these guys made friends with a centaur, and that centaur made friends with a bird, and then the bird, which looks a lot like a Skeksis from the Dark Crystal, then led the world's mightiest Wa, or at least started trying to. So we're going to jump through here, take a look at the allegiance abilities, and then of course some stuff on Path to Glory and the match play rules, and then jump into the new stuff, the new exciting things, and what's changed. So there's 3 ways to play this book. Well, 4 ways to play this book, kind of. You can play either as strictly Kruleboyz, strictly Ironjaws, strictly Bonesplittaz, or combine it all together into the Big Wa. Now each of those has kind of their own strengths and weaknesses, and the Big Wa pares down the essentials from the other lists and gives you the ability to combine them all together. Now nothing stops you from taking various stuff and mix and matching as you like, and of course orcs are orcs. So we have to look through Gur and what's been going on there. Of course, the brief history of orcs, a history of violence, minus the Viggo Mortensen, and what's been going on basically with this green-skinned race as they fight through the Mortal Realms and just look for a good bash. It's all they really want. They want a good crump and a good fight. And yeah, they don't make fun. They make fun of the Stormcast. Iron's good for crumping, but gold is naff all use. I don't like the gold boys that much. So it does expand a lot on the background of the Kruleboyz and give you some more sort of like insight into them, why they're different from the other orcs, why they fight the way they fight, how their war clans go together, and their history. So also the Ironjaws and the Bonesplittaz, who've been around for a while. And then Cragnose, the living earthquake, the last of the Drogoth, the end of empires. This god that they are now kind of following around because he just wants to fight too, and they're into that. Gobsprak, the mouth of Gork. Of course, you've got Gordrak, the fist of Gork. This guy's the mouth. I don't know who the feet are, but this guy's got his own sort of like tale to tell in rallying the Kruleboyz to fall around Cragnose. We got a beautiful color section here. Some of the great new models. There's Gobsprak himself on his cool vulture. All the new star set figures like the Killer Boss and the Swamp Color Shaman. Cool things like the new Behemoth and new baby monster, which is the troll, the Slogoth, I think it's called. We got Swamp Boss Scumdrek, who's a big fighter, riding his big Behemoth there. Kind of an alligator monster. The Breaker Boss on a Mirebrute Trogoth. So there are some Trogoths in here, but they've been enslaved. And that is kind of the jam of the Kruleboyz. They're cruel because they capture people and make them do stuff, including the Swampgrots, or the Hobgrots, who are sort of a hobgoblin equivalent from the old Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Got the Bolt Boys. You can see here some of the gut rippers, like the Hornblower. There wasn't a Hornblower in the starter set, unfortunately. And then a Wicked Haka, which is your option. You don't have to give them spears. You can give them melee weapons too and reduce their reach. Although if you're just fishing for that sweet mortal wounds, you probably want the reach for more dice. Gordrak, some of the older models, Ironjaws stuff, Bonesplittaz stuff, and then everything together in a big Wa, fighting some Slaneshy demons. Of course, painting guides, and then our army rules. So this uses a new format. This is the new format that I am assuming because it was also prevalent in the Stormcast Eternals. And if it sounds like I'm losing my voice, it's because that was an enormous book, and doing the book review for that was several hours of sitting here talking to you guys. I'm going to take frequent breaks to drink. My coffee's almost gone and my Nalgene's almost empty. This is broken into 3 parts. So the army rules, which apply to everything you're going to do. The Path to Glory, which is the special rules for playing as Orruk Warclans in a narrative campaign. And then match play rules, which include new grand strategies and battle tactics you can use all the time, and your own core battalions. So we'll dive in with the army rules. And that's your allegiance abilities. Now, one of the things you're going to notice is there is far less real estate taken up by the clan rules and the allegiance abilities. So the Kruleboyz, you can pick a following subfaction for your army. All Kruleboyz units in your army gain the keyword of the subfaction you picked, and you can use the allegiance abilities from that subfaction. If a unit already has a different subfaction keyword on their war scroll, it cannot gain a new one. This does not preclude you from using them in your army, but you cannot gain the allegiance abilities for its subfactions. So you can still mix and match whatever you like, but only the Kruleboyz units get to use this stuff. The 3 subfactions are Grinning Blades, Big Yellers, and Skullbugs. And they only take up a single page. Now, what's great about this book so far, and was true in the Stormcast book too, your subfaction doesn't tie you to a list of artifacts and command traits and other junk. So there's just basically a trait for taking that subfaction, and everybody else pulls from the same pool of stuff. You get your venom-encrusted weapons, which means a 6 to hit does mortal wounds equal to your damage, and the attack sequence ends. You get a Kruleboyz Wah. This is pretty great. You don't have to build up to it. This might be one of the best Wahs ever. Once per battle in the combat phase, when you pick a friendly Kruleboyz general to fight, you can say they're calling the Kruleboyz Wah. If you do so, pick 2 other friendly Kruleboyz units wholly within 18 of the general that have not yet fought in the combat phase. That general and those units immediately fight in an order of your choice. So you get to triple attack with 3 units. That's going to be very popular. Being able to fight with 3 units in a row, like during a double turn or something like that, once per battle, is huge. Dirty tricks. After the players have received their starting command points, but before start of the first turn, you can pick a following dirty trick. You can have a noisy racket, subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks made by enemies during the first battle round. Lethal surprise, roll 3 dice. For each 4+, you can pick a different terrain feature or different objective that's not wholly within enemy territory and secretly note it down. The first time an enemy unit finishes a move within 1 inch of the terrain feature or objective, roll a dice. On a 2+, the unit suffers D6 mortal wounds. 3 dice. You can just trap all the objectives in no man's land. That's amazing. Disappearing Act, roll 3 dice. For each 4+, you can pick a different enemy unit in the battlefield that's not been reinforced. So not reinforced units. Then roll a dice for each unit you picked. If the roll is greater than their wound characteristic, your opponent must remove them from the battlefield and set them up in reserve. At the end of your opponent's first movement phase, they must be set up on the battlefield wholly within their territory and more than 9 inches away from enemies. This dirty trick cannot be picked if the battle plan has the no reserve rule. So basically you can force a unit to go into reserves and then have them reappear at the end of your opponent's first movement phase. Covered in Mud, roll 3 dice. For each 4+, pick a friendly unit that is not a hero or monster. While that unit's in cover, they're not visible to the enemy. That's pretty cool too. So you can have your Bolt Boys be not visible while they're in cover. All right, then command traits. Now, one other thing you're going to notice is in this book, no more D6 tables for all of your command traits and artifacts and stuff like that. I think Games Workshop finally realized no one was rolling a dice, they were just picking. And so they're not locked into having 6 anymore, and there's no more of these silly tables. So we got Kruleboy command traits for kill-a-bosses, snatch-a-bosses, or break-a-bosses. Kruleboy artifacts for a Kruleboy hero. So there's only 4 artifacts, and there's only 3 warlord traits. The warlord traits are, I like this one, Slippery Scumbag, retreat and still charge. That's pretty important for your big mounted characters. Super Sneaky, if the general's on the battlefield, before determining who has the first turn, pick a friendly Kruleboyz unit and set them up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 from the enemy. You just go anywhere you want. Pick a unit. That's Kruleboyz. Egomaniac, if this general is within 3 of another friendly unit, roll a dice before you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this general instead of making a ward save roll. On a 4+, pick 1 other friendly unit within 3 of this general. The wound is allocated to that unit and cannot be negated. So you can have somebody else take wounds for you. Kruleboyz artifacts, Eyebiter Ash. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you can see this fairy will hurl the Eyebiter Ash at a foe. If you do so, pick an enemy unit within 3 of the bear and roll a dice. On a 1 or 2, nothing happens. On a 3 to 4, subtract 1 from hit rolls. On a 5, 6, subtract hit rolls for the rest of the battle. Pocket sand. It's the old Dale from King of the Hill trick. Cool, but requires a dice roll, so yeah, it might do nothing. Mork's Eye Pebble. Once per battle, at the start of your enemy's shooting phase, you can say the bear will rub their Mork's Eye Pebble. If you do so, the bear and all friendly units within 12 have a ward save of 5+ until the start of the next phase. Having a 5+ ward save on your whole army within 12 until the start of the next phase, until like the Battle Shock phase, pretty great. This one's hilarious. Beast Killa Slop. It's a tasty treat laced with poison. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, pick an enemy monster within 3 of the bear and roll a dice. On a 1, nothing happens. On a 2 to 5, they take d6 mortal wounds. On a 6, they take 2d6 mortal wounds. Hey Nagash, want some candy? And then Spiker Seeds, once per battle. After an enemy unit finishes a charge move within 6 of the bear, you can say they'll throw their Spiker Seeds. If you do so, roll a dice for each model in the enemy unit. On a 5+, they take a mortal wound. I don't know, I think the Mork's Eye Pebble is the most reliable and probably the best. The Spiker Seeds could be cool to keep you protected, but only if you're getting charged by a big unit, not situational, so I think I'd take the ward save. Ironjaws, if you're playing Ironjaws, you can be a Iron Sun, Bloodtooth, or Dachapa. So those are your clan abilities now. I do feel like some of the clan abilities and stuff having gone away may be controversial, but we'll see. If you are a Ironjaws, your WA abilities, once per battle at the start of your charge phase, you can pick a friendly Ironjaws general on the battlefield and say they are calling a WA. Until the end of that turn, add 1 to charge rolls for Ironjaws units and improve their rend by 1. Mighty Destroyers, you can use this command ability in your hero phase. The model that issued the command must be an Ironjaws model, and the unit that receives it must be an Ironjaws model. If the unit received the command is more than 12 from the enemy, it can make a normal move. If it's within 3, it can make a pile-in move. If it's within 12 of the enemy unit and more than 3 from the enemy unit, it must attempt a charge. So you can force a charge, you can make a normal move, or you can pile in. Smashing and Bashing, in the combat phase, after a friendly Ironjaws unit is fought, if any enemy units were destroyed by an attack made by that unit, you can pick a friendly Ironjaws unit not yet fought within 3. They can immediately fight. That's pretty cool. So double fighting for a friendly Ironjaws unit. And that's not a command ability? It's just pick a unit to fight. So you just get a double fight with your Ironjaws. That's pretty great. And it's any Ironjaws unit. Command traits. You get 5 command traits, but they're split amongst Mega Bosses and Ironjaws Wizards. So for the Mega Boss, you get Hulking Brute. After this general has made a charge move, you can roll a dice for an enemy within 1 inch. On a 2+, take d3 mortal wounds. Mega Bossy, this general can issue the Mighty Destroyer's command even if it has already issued it by another friendly model in the same phase. That's pretty cool. So being able to normal move 2 units in the hero phase is probably what you're going to end up taking. And then Mighty Wah Leader, if this general calls an Ironjaws Wah, you can reroll charge rolls for friendly Ironjaws units wholly within 12 until the end of the turn. Mega Bossy feels like it just gets you in combat, and that's where you want to be anyway, so yeah, being able to do it twice per turn, it's huge. Champions of the Weird for an Ironjaws Wizard. Touched by the Wah, this shaman is a particularly sensitive conduit for the Wah. Before attempting to cast a spell by this general, you must pick a unit within 6 inches. They take d3 mortal wounds, and you can add the number of mortal wounds caused to that unit to the casting roll for the spell. If you pick this general to suffer the mortal wounds, and they are slain by one of those wounds, the spell is not cast. But it just says, pick a unit within 6, so it can be the enemy. Master of the Weird, pick an extra spell from Lord of the Weird. And then Artifacts Power, Mega Bosses only, Armor of Gork, 6+ ward, and can add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons. However, you must subtract 2 from your move characteristic, and you cannot run. So it's super heavy armor. Destroyer, pick one of the bear's melee weapons. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you get +3 damage to that weapon until the end of the phase. Whoa! And then Boss Skewer, add 1 of the bravery characteristic of friendly Ironjaws units while they're within 18 of the bear, and subtract 1 from the bravery of the enemy within 12. I don't know. Armor of Gork slowing you down feels not great. Destroyer could be cool for one turn. Bonesplittaz battle traits. Bonesplittaz Warclans. You can be Bone Grins, Icebone, or Drakfoots. Your War Paint gives you a 6+ ward on all your units. And then your Wa. Once per battle, at the start of the combat phase, you can pick a friendly Bonesplittaz general on the battlefield and say you're calling a Wa. If you do so, your ward saves a 4+ instead of a 6. The Spirit of Gorka Morka. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a Bonesplittaz melee weapon, by a melee weapon by a Bonesplittaz unit with 5 or more models is a 6, it does 2 hits instead of 1. So as long as you have 5 guys or more, you get to exploding 6s. And then Tireless Trackers. After deployment, but before the first battle round begins, half the Bonesplittaz units in your army can move up to 5 inches, rounding up. If both players can move units, you roll off to see who goes first. And then 2 command traits for your wizards, and 3 for your Savage Orc big bosses. So the big boss, you got Killa Instinct. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a melee weapon is a 6, the attack causes a mortal wound, in addition to your normal damage. So that's okay because remember it's a character, so you don't have a big unit, so you're not doubling down on these. Great Hunter. If this general is part of your army, when you use Tireless Trackers, you can move 8 instead of 5. And then Monster Killa. In the combat phase, after this general is fought for the first time, they can fight for a second time if they're within 3 of an enemy monster. You get your Shamanistic Quirks. 1 with the Beast. You can pick an extra spell. And Voice of the Great Green God, when you issue a command, it can be received by a friendly unit within 24 instead of 18. And then your Artifacts of Power, you can have Gubbins for heroes and Wa energies for wizards. Doc Juice, once per battle, you can heal up to D6 wounds in the hero phase. A Lucky Bone, once per phase, you can either reroll a hit roll of either reroll 1 hit roll or 1 wound roll for an attack made by the bear, or you can reroll 1 save for the attack made by the bear. And then Glowing Tattoos, add 2 to ward rolls for the bear. That means that during the Wa, they'd have a 2+ ward roll. So a 4+ ward roll normally, 2+ otherwise. And then your Reservoirs of Wa energy, Mork's Bony Bits, add 1 to casting and dispelling rolls for the bear for each enemy monster within 24. And Beast Lure Glyph, once per battle at the start of your hero phase, you can pick a spell from Lure of the Savage Beast the bear does not know and has not attempted to cast during the battle. The bear can attempt to cast that spell in that hero phase in addition to their other spells. Just once per battle. And then the big Wa. So this has been streamlined a bit. It is no longer quite as many ways to use the powers. There's 1 less. And they've been reordered a bit. Also, generating powers is slightly different. So what do you get? Well, you get Cunning, Brutal, and Savage. So you get to keep Venom-encrusted weapons, Mighty Destroyers, and War Paint. So you get to keep all those things. So you still get your Exploding Mortal Wounds on your Kruleboyz. The Mighty Destroyers get to keep their move ability as a command trait. And then War Paint-wise, you still get your 6+ ward. And then you get Here We Go, Here We Go, Here We Go. This is a heroic action that you can carry out with 1 from the Orruk Warclans hero instead of picking 1 from the table on the core rules. If you do so, roll a dice. If the roll is greater than the number of the current battle round, you receive a number of Wa points equal to the number of the current battle round. So, for example, the 3rd battle round on a 4+, you get 3 Wa points. And then Power of the Wa, during the battle, you receive Wa points as shown on the following table. So at the start of your hero phase, you get D6 if your general's alive. You get 2 at the start of the hero phase if there's any friendly War Chanters on the battlefield. So it's D6 in your hero phase, 2 in your hero phase for War Chanters. At the start of your hero phase, if there's any Bonesplittaz wizards, you get 1. In your charge phase, for each Orruk that finishes a charge move, you get 1. At the end of the combat phase, for each friendly Orruk units within 3 of the enemy, you get 1. And the bottom is higher on this. It's 8 now. When you've received enough Wa points, you get the Corresponding ability. So you get Zog'em, get +1 to run rolls for 8. Get 'em, +1 to charge rolls for 10. Zap 'em, add 1 to casting, dispelling, and unbinding rolls for friendly Orruk wizards. Smash 'em, get +1 to hit rolls at 16. Bash 'em, +1 to wound rolls at 20. And then Wa, at the start of the combat phase, you can say that you will release the Power of the Wa. If you do so, add 1 to the attack characteristic of melee weapons used by Orruk units for the rest of the phase. At the end of the phase, you lose all your Wa points you've received so far, and your army loses all the Wa powers it's gained. So you just kind of want to sit at 20, and you get +1 to hit and wound for all your Orcs. I mean, why not? Yeah, I would just sit at 20 forever. In the first turn, if you're playing regular Orcs, you're probably just going to have D6. Getting to 8 is going to be, I mean, it's easier for you want to have a War Chanter, you want to have a Bonesplittaz Wizard to be +3, so D6 +3. When you charge and you're in combat, you get +2 at the end of each combat phase for each friendly. So you can get to 10 pretty quick, probably in the second or third turn. And then you get your mount traits. Regardless of what type of Orruk Warclan army you choose, one Orruk Warclan hero on a mount can have one of these. You can be tough for a monster only, unless this monster has a number of wounds allocated to it that exceeds half its wound characteristic. Use its top row for its wound suffered, which just means it brackets at half basically all the time. Fast one, in your hero phase, the model can make a normal move. That's cool. Mean one, monster only. When you carry out the Stomp Monstrous Rampage, you do D6 mortal wounds instead of D3. A loud one, when you carry out the Roar, pick all enemy units within 3 that can't get command abilities instead of 1. Also super cool. A weird one, 4+ ward against mortal wounds caused by spells and endless spells. And a smelly one, -1 to hit by melee weapons if you haven't made a charge roll in the same turn because the wind takes the smell off you. And then you got 3 Lords of the Swamp. Now, these Lords don't necessarily have 6 spells, so each one here has 4. We've got the Lord of the Swamp for Kruleboyz, the Black Pit. Cast on 7, range 12. Pick an enemy unit within range invisible. Roll a die for each model in that unit on a 6. And for each roll that is equal to or greater than their save, they take a mortal wound. So, wow. Annihilators. 2+ mortal wounds. That also means that Vindictors, 3+ save, 3+ mortal wounds for 10. The Black Pit is great against heavily armored units. Choking Mist has a spell with a casting value of 7 and range of 24. If cast, pick a point in the battlefield within range visible. All units within 6 of that point are affected by Choking Mist until the start of the next hero phase. While units affected by it, subtract 1 from the attack of their melee weapons and they can't run. Sneaky Miasma. Sneaky Miasma is a spell with a casting value of 6 and a range of 18. Pick a friendly Kruleboyz monster within range. They can make a normal move. And then Nasty Hex has a spell with a casting of 7 and a range of 12. If cast, pick an enemy unit within range invisible. Until the end of your turn, ward rolls cannot be made for models in that unit. So you can get rid of ward saves, have a monster make a move, lose attacks and can't run, or just murder things with armor. The Kruleboyz spell is amazing. even against elves, even against the Lumineth Relvos, Black Pit is amazing. Foot of Gork for the Ironjaws has a cast of 10 and a range of 18. If cast, pick an enemy unit within range invisible. They take D6 mortal wounds. Then roll a dice. On a 1 to 3, it stops. On a 4+, keep taking D6 mortal wounds. So the damage has gone way up on that. Keep rolling until it stops. 10+, but there's lots of ways of getting plus to cast, especially if you just mortal wound guys nearby. Mighty Headbutt, cast on 5, range 16. If cast, pick up 1 enemy hero within range invisible to the caster. Take a mortal wound. If the hero is also a wizard, they take D3 mortal wounds instead of 1. The Great Green Hand of Gork, cast on 7, range 12. Pick a friendly Orruk unit wholly within range, visible to the caster and more than 3 from enemy units. Remove them and set them up anywhere more than 9 from the enemy, and it cannot move in the following movement phase. But it could move from something else. So if you cast Great Big Hand of Gork, you could Mighty Destroyers it into charge range still. Can't move in the following movement phase, but can move in the hero phase. Basham Lads is a spell with a casting of 8. If cast, until your next hero phase, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by friendly Ironjaws units, wholly within 16 of the caster. Wow, on an 8 +1 wound aura. Pretty good. And then Lord of the Savage Beast for Bonesplittaz, Squiggly Curse, cast on 6. Pick an enemy hero within 3 of the caster. They take D3 mortal wounds, and if they're slain, you can add 1 to casting rolls for the caster for the rest of the battle. Glowy Green Tusks, cast on 5, 18-inch range. Pick a friendly Bonesplittaz unit wholly within range visible until the start of your next hero phase. Improve the rend of their weapons by 2. By their mount by 2. And then Gorkamorka's Warcry. It's a spell with a casting of 7 and a range of 12. If cast, pick an enemy unit within range invisible. In the following combat phase, that unit can only be picked to fight at the end of the phase. Power of the Great Wereboar, cast on 6, range 24. Pick a friendly Bonesplittaz unit wholly within range invisible. Until your next hero phase, add 1 to run rolls and charge rolls for that unit. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by that unit, but they cannot shoot. So you can transform someone into a murder machine. And then clans, look at that. All the clans basically fitting on 2 pages. So grinning blades during the first battle round, you're not visible if you're more than 12 from the enemy. So that's pretty great. Big Yellers, add 3 to the range for your missile weapons for your Big Yellers Orruk units. In addition, in the first battle round, each time a friendly Big Yellers Orruk unit shoots, you can add reroll 1 of the hit rolls for 1 of the attacks it makes. So good for your bolt boys. Skullbugs, when an enemy unit's picked a fight within 3 of any friendly Skullbugs units, add 2 to the roll if the enemy unit's within 3 of their monsters. On a 6+, they're -1 to hit. So just everybody carries a -1 to hit aura. All good, but unlocks some battle line choices, so worth considering which one you take. Ironjaws, sorry, the Iron Suns. All right, get them. Use this command ability at the end of the enemy charge phase. The unit that receives the command must be an Iron Suns unit that is within 12 of the enemy and more than 3 from all enemy units. They can make a charge. So for a command point, you can make a charge during the charge phase. Use command ability at the end of the enemy charge phase, sorry. So when it's your opponent's turn, you can make a charge. Bloodtooths, hunt and crush. At the end of the combat phase, friendly Bloodtooths Gorgruntas units that fought in that phase and are within 3 can make a pile and move. In addition, those that fought but are not within 3 can each attempt to make a normal move or a charge. That's crazy. And then Dachappas. When you use the Violent Fury ability for a friendly Dachappas War Chanter, you can pick up to 3 different friendly Dachappas Brutes units or Dachappas Ardboys units in any combination to be affected by the ability instead of 1. And then Bonesplittaz get the Bone Grins. Add 1 of the attack characteristic of missile weapons by your Savage Orc Arrow Boys. Ice Bones, Freezing Strike. If the unmodified wound roll for an attack made with a melee weapon is a 6, the attack causes a number of mortal wounds equal to their damage characteristic and the attack sequence ends. Don't make a save roll. So, hey, how about some venom weapons for my Bonesplittaz? That's pretty huge. It's on wound roll instead of hit roll, but it's still equal to your damage characteristic. That's pretty great, actually. And then Drakfoot, ward rolls cannot be made for wounds and mortal wounds made by Drakfoot units, because you hex them. So your whole army stops ward rolls from being made. Path to Glory! Gather in a Big Wa. So this one's going to be all about calling to Big Wa, and what you get. The higher the tier Path to Glory game you get, the more allegiance abilities you get, so you kind of lose some of your allegiance abilities in the lower tier games. You can also ransack territories, get your quests, veteran abilities, your special territories like a Dwarden Mine or City of the Dead, heroic upgrades, and then your core enhancements, and you get your small battle plans. Now the Warclans, of course, not being able, the War Scrolls not being able to be used in match play games makes them a little less interesting. And if you look, they are basically a combination of different War Scrolls to get the ability. So Big Rock, you can take any of these 5 battalions and you gain reroll ward rolls of 1 for the battalion. Hey, that's it. All of them get the same ability, depending on what you take. And we're into match play. Okay, so this is new for all these Battletomes and is probably a thing that's to come. You get your own bespoke grand strategies and battle tactics, a lot like the 40k codexes, giving you your own ways to play match play games. They're here in AOS now too. So grand strategies, what's the plan? You can take in and out, lads. If you're a Kruleboyz general, when the battle ends, you complete the strategy if that general has not been slain and fewer than half of the units in your army have been destroyed. Your starting army have been destroyed. So survive and have your general be alive. Show them who's boss. If you're an Ironjaws, when the battle ends, you complete this strategy if 2 or more enemy heroes were slain by attacks made by the general and your general has not been slain. So kill 2 heroes and not die. That's a pretty good Ironjaws one for the murder cabbage. And then get them bones. You can pick this strategy if you have a Bonesplittaz general. After deployment, pick a terrain feature wholly within the enemy territory. When the battle ends, you complete it if you control that terrain feature. And finally, crump them all. You only pick this grand strategy if your army includes Cragnose, Gobsprak, or Godrak. When the battle ends, you complete this strategy if there's fewer than 3 enemy units on the battlefield. If you kill everybody and you got a big guy leading your army. I mean, in and out, lads, might be doable. Crump them all seems like probably the one you take if you have Godrak or Cragnose. He's just trying to kill everybody anyway. And then battle tactics, and you can use these in any match play game when it's time to pick one. So time to get stuck in, you pick this battle tactic only in your first or second turn. You complete this tactic if you pick, if the model you picked to be your general and all the models in your army that are on the battlefield are within 12 of the enemy at the end of the turn. So if you just get in and get within 12, then you get this tactic. Wait for it, lads. You can pick this tactic if your army has 24 WA points. You complete this tactic if it still has at least 30 at the end of the turn, so if you don't use your WA ability. Squish to puny gits. That one seems like a gimme, because you're just going to get d6 per turn. So I feel like that's a good one to save for the end of the game. Time to get stuck in might just have already happened, so why not? Squish to puny gits. You can pick this battle tactic only if the model picked to be your general has the Ironjaws keyword and there's at least one enemy battle line unit in the battlefield. You complete this tactic if there's no enemy battle line units in the battlefield at the end of the turn. So, yeah, cool. I mean, again, these are situational, but you can always take them, so why not? Kill the biggin. You can take it if your general's a Bonesplitter. Pick an enemy monster. Complete this tactic if they're killed by a Bonesplitter unit. And then take that, you suckers, if your general's a Kruleboy. You complete this if the following 2 criteria are met. At least 10 wounds or mortal wounds in any combination were caused by friendly units and allocated to the enemy this turn. Fewer than 10 wounds or mortal wounds in any combination were caused by enemy units were allocated to you. So if you cause 10 but don't take 10, you can do it. And then Destroyer Vampires, pick this, if cragnose is on the battlefield, pick a faction train feature on the battlefield that was set up by your opponent and that was not demolished. You complete this if you demolish it. So if cragnose breaks a building that was set up by the enemy or a train feature, then you get that battle tactic. Time to get stuck in and wait for it, lads. Both feel, I mean, situational if you're using the big wah, but if you're using big wah, wait for it, lads is good, and time to get stuck in is, I think, might just happen automatically. So time to get stuck in feels like a good first 2 turns one. And you can combine it with 3 units run, and then everyone's within 12. So turn 2, maybe time to get stuck in. And then you also get your own core battalions. So you have the ability to unlock Slayers with Ironjawz Fist. You can unlock a Strategist with Kruleboyz Finger, and you can unlock a Swift with a Bonesplitter's Ruck. So none of these are unified drops to choose turn order, but the free command point for a Slayers, you just got to take up to 2 units with the Ironjaws keyword that are not leader, behemoth, or artillery. The Kruleboyz one, you have to have a Kruleboyz sub-commander with like 10 wounds or less, and at least 2 Kruleboyz not troop units or troop units, up to 1 Hobgrot unit. And the Bonesplitter's Rock, you have to have a Shaman, and then up to 2 Bonesplitter's troops that aren't leader, behemoth, or artillery. So interesting, but again, I don't know if they outclass the ones in the core rulebook. Cragnose. Hey, he's still Cragnose. Nothing changed about him. Gobsprak, the Mouth of Gork. 14 wounds, 14-inch move. Does bracket at 5. So that ability to bracket at half wounds is kind of cool. These are a bit squishier monsters. So not following the Stormcast trend of only bracketing at half wounds. Got a Bogbark Staff. He's got a 5+ save, 14 wounds and Bravery 6. 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 D3 damage. The Big Bird gets 5 attacks, 1-inch range, 4s and 3s, -1 2 damage, but you can up the ability to hit in this whole army with one of their units. Stinger, 1 attack, 3s and 2s initially, -1 D6 damage. And then a backup Stabba for your Grot, 2 attacks, 4s and 4s, 1 damage. Cast 2 and Bind 2, knows the lore of the swamp and knows all of the spells in addition to the other spells that it knows. It's got a mount and a companion, which is Ricklefinger, his arm with the backup sting. It's his Grot. He can fly. Ward save of 6+. Mork says no. Each time this unit unbinds a spell, the caster suffers D3 mortal wounds. If the spell was unbound with an unbinding roll of 10+, the caster suffers D6 mortal wounds instead. Huh! Mouth of Gork. If this unit uses the redeploy command to a Kruleboyz unit, you can reroll the dice to determine the distance they move. The distance the unit that receives the command can move. If this unit uses the Unleash Hell command to a Kruleboyz unit, you do not have to subtract 1 from hits for shooting. That's pretty cool. Scream and Mandrak. Once per battle, when this unit attempts to ungrab a spell, you can say it's using its Scream and Mandrak. If you do so, the unbinding roll is 3d6 instead of 2d6, and the average roll on 3d6 is 10.5, which means you'll do d6 mortal wounds. So, a good way to kill a baby wizard. And then Summon Boggy Mist, he casts it on a 7. If cast, until your next hero phase, add 1 to charge rolls for Kruleboyz units in the battlefield and subtract 1 from charge rolls for other units, for the enemy units. But that's going to affect your own units too. Sorry, other units, not enemy units. So your Iron Fist or Ironjaws and stuff would be -1. Now the alternate build for this is a Kruleboyz, 4+ save instead of a 5+ save. Boss Sticka has 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage, but can do exploding mortal wounds. Beacon Flesh Tearing Talons. It's got the same core stats as Gobsprack, it looks like. He can fly, all part of the plan. If a friendly Kruleboyz unit fails a battle shock test within 3, only 1 model flees. And then Commanding View, you can use the same command ability more than once in the same phase if you pick this unit to issue the command. This unit still cannot issue more than 1 command per phase. So you can double down on commands with this guy in your army. Kruleboyz on Great Gnashtooth, same as in the starter set, same with the Kruleboyz and the Merc Knob. Swamp Call Shaman, also the same. And Gut Rib is still the same too. Although they have the option now of Wicked Hackers. So drop your range to 1 inch, but wound on 3s, and with an ability to gain a +1 to hit from your Slogoth. Worth taking. Also, with your Musician, you can add 1 to charge rolls. And with your Standard Bearer, you get +1 Bravery, so you become Bravery 6. And as you're only Bravery 5, that's kind of worth it. So a reason to get a box of these guys, to at least get the Standard Bearer and Musicians upgraded into your units that you got in the starter set. I'll probably buy a box. I'm hoping the box has 2 standards in it too, so I can do both my units, but we'll see. And then you got Swamp Boss Scumdrak. He's the named character version of the big, whatchamacallit, Sludge Raker Beast. 15 wounds, 4+ save, 8-inch move, Bravery 6. His Spiked Snatch a Stick, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage. Grasping Talons, 3 attacks. They will be, 3-inch range, 6 attacks. 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage. So he's looking at 20 potential damage right there. Noisome Bite, 1 attack, 3s and 2s, -1. It's D3 plus 4 damage. And then Thrashing Tail, 2 attacks, 3s and 2s, -2, 2 damage. So another 4. Really high potential damage on this guy. He's got a Bet Master. If this unit's part of your army, after deployment, before the first battle round, you can pick a friendly Hobgrot unit in your army to be the Counting Crew, and 1 friendly unit to be the Bet. You cannot pick this unit or the Counting Crew to be the Bet. If the Bet is the first friendly unit to be destroyed during the battle, you can pick an extra Triumph enhancement for your army that can be used during the battle. The unit that is chosen to benefit from the Triumph unit must be either this unit or the Counting Crew. You take bets to see who's going to die first. That's so funny. Sludge Raker Venom. Add 1 to the number of mortal wounds caused by venom-encrusted weapons if the unmodified hit roll was a 6, and the attacking unit is wholly within 12 inches of friendly units with this ability. So you do +1 mortal wound. That's a reason to take this guy. His aura by itself, increasing the mortal wound output of your guys, is a huge deal. And then Expert Snatch and Grab. Once per battle at the end of the combat phase, you can pick an enemy model that has a wound characteristic of 7 or less and does not have a mount and is within 3 of this unit. Roll 2d6. If the roll is equal to or greater than that enemy model's wounds characteristic, it is slain. So you can even pick up like Lord Castellans, anything with 7 or Lord Celestin on Drakoth. Any big hero, you can kidnap heroes with this guy, which is amazing because he's the big slave taker. And then a normal Snatch a Boss. He's got Snatch and Grab. He's got his Sludge Raker Venom, and then he doesn't do the bets. For the most part, he's slightly lower damage output because of his Chain Link Grappling Hook, but he's still a great take for a non-named character, and he has access to all of the traits, abilities, and artifacts and stuff too. So a Snatch a Boss, even without being the big character, is amazing. And then we got a Marshcraw Slogoth. This guy is a must-take. Not a monster, doesn't degrade, 12 wounds. Is a monster. Nope, actually he's just a Trogoth, not even a monster. And as he's a Trogoth unit, that means he can be allied into Ogre armies, I'm pretty sure, which is pretty cool. So Marshcraw Slogoth, he is a 6-inch move, 4+ save, Bravery 5, 12 wounds. Grot Snatch a Crew. At the end of the combat phase, you can pick an enemy model within 2 of this unit and roll a dice. If it's double than that model's wound characteristic, it's slain. He's got 4 attacks, 4+4+1 damage with the catching nets, and then his raking claws have 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1/2 damage. The reason you take him though, he's 150 points, and he adds 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by friendly units that are wholly within 18 of any friendly units with this ability. What an incredible allied unit. The wording being only friendly units, that's huge. My ogres are gonna love this guy. This guy's getting painted just to go in my ogre army. And then regeneration, in your hero phase, you can roll a dice for this unit. On a 4+, heal D3 wounds allocated to them. Yeah, this guy is like destruction's new best friend. 18-inch aura of +1 to hit rolls for attacks made by melee weapons with friendly units that are wholly within 18. This guy is going to be universally taken in destruction armies. My ogre army just got so excited, like, hey, these are my iron guts. They hit on 2s now. Yeah, like, why not? So good. No command points needed, just an 18-inch bubble +1 to hit. Break a Boss on Mirebrute Trogoth, so also a Trogoth, which means this guy can go hang out with my my ogres if I want him to. He's got the Trogoth keyword. He is 5-inch move, 4+ save, bravery 7, 12 wounds. He's got a Bident goad, which is a trident, but with just 2 prongs. 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, 2 damage. Ironbound Club, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, -2, 3 damage. He is Break a Harness. At the start of the combat phase, you can say this Break a Boss is yanking on his on the harness. If you do so, he takes D3 mortal wounds, but for each mortal wound suffered, you get +2 attacks with the Ironbound Club until the end of the phase. So he can hurt himself, and each mortal wound, he can have 10 attacks, 3s and 3s, -2, 3 damage. That is a huge amount of damage. And then on a 4+, he'll D3 mortal wounds during your hero phase. So, yeah, kind of balances out. Slitas, they're still terrible. Standard Musician, Run and Still Shoot, reroll Battle Shock tests if you have Scrap Totem Bearer. 8-inch range, 4s and 3s, -1/1 damage. If they had a 10-inch range with their scrap grenades, I mean, they can run and shoot. Stab them good still if you roll a 6, you get 2 hits instead of 1. I don't know. I don't see a use for them. Bolt Boy is still amazing. Obscure Killboy, still great. It's a single thing. It's got 2 modes of fire. Hasty Shot, 12-inch range, 4s and 3s, -2, and then damage is skewered. To determine the damage characteristic, roll a number of dice equal to the wound characteristic of the target, of the damage target +2. To determine the damage characteristic for an attack made with a B-skewer bolt, roll a number of dice equal to the wounds characteristic of the target. The damage characteristic is equal to 2 + 1 for each roll of 5+, up to a maximum damage characteristic of 12. So if you target something that's got 18 wounds, like let's say you target a behemoth, Sons of Behemoth. You're gonna roll 35 dice, and the damage is 2 + 1 for every 5+. So you're gonna, on average, do damage 17. That's insane. And you can make a aimed shot at 24, but only if you don't move and you're not within 3. So yeah, screw you, Sons of Behemoth. You're just gonna get half health right away. That's insane. Yeah, because average dice rolls for 35 dice is a third. So you're looking at 10, 11, 12, +2, 14 wounds actually you do per hit. Yeah, no big deal. No big deal, Cragnose. No big deal, everybody. Godrak, here he is. 20 wounds, 4+ save, bravery 8. He's got his Inner Bursting Roar, 6 shots, 2s and 3s, -1/1 damage with an 8-inch range. Smasha, 5 attacks, 2s and 3s, -1/2 damage. Cunnin, 5 attacks, 2s and 3s, -1/2 damage. So basically 10 attacks, the same profile. His Mighty Fist and Tail, they have 9 attacks, 3s and 3s, -2, 3 damage. Huge amount of damage. He brackets at 6 wounds. 12-inch move. His Destructive Bulk is 4. He can fly. Destructive Bolt, if you carried a monstrous Stomp Rampage with this unit and the enemy unit you pick suffers any mortal wounds, that enemy unit suffered an additional number of mortal wounds equal to Destructive Bolt. So you're D3 + 4 at the top bracket. After all models slain by these mortal wounds are removed from play, if there are no enemy models within 3 of this unit, you can move this unit D6 inches and carry out another Stomp Rampage. So if you wipe somebody out, you get to stomp again. Ugh. And then Smasha, If the unmodified wound roll for an attack made with a smash is 4+, and the target's a hero but not a wizard, the target suffers 2 mortal wounds and the attack sequence ends. Cunning, if the unmodified wound roll for attack made is a 4+, and the target is a wizard, they take 2 mortal wounds and the attack sequence ends. So you're real good at killing wizards and heroes. Also, if you Monstrous Rampage on a hero and kill it because you're doing D3 plus 4 mortal wounds, you just get to pile another D6 inches and maybe hit another unit. So way to charge into little guys and then pile into somebody else. Voice of Gork, when you pick this unit to issue a command, you can pick 3 friendly units to receive the command instead of 1. Holy moly. Hey, let's just all-out attack 3 times. So 1 all-out attack affects 3 units. And then Strength from Victory, at the end of the combat phase, if any models were slain by wounds caused by an attack made by this unit, in that combat phase, add 1 to this unit's wound characteristic and add 1 to the attack characteristic of this unit's melee weapons, excluding those of its mount. So you get +1 to your wound characteristic, so you get a wound characteristic 21, and then you get +1 to your... It's interesting though, your wound characteristic goes up by 1, you don't heal, but your total wounds would go up. And then, yeah, you get +1 to your attacks. So you get 6 attacks with smashing coming all of a sudden. You get your Mega Boss, 18 wounds. Inner Bursting Roar is the same, but 2 less attacks than on Gordrak. Your Boss, Gorhaka and Choppa, or Boss, Choppa and Ripatooth. So you either have 9 attacks with 3s and 3s -1/2 damage, or 7 attacks with 3s and 3s -1/2 damage, but the Ripatooth Fist will do extra stuff. If you have the Ripatooth Fist, you have a 3+ save, which will be popular. Mighty Fist and Tail are 1 less attack than on Gordrak, and Destructive Bulk is 1 less. Strength and Victory is the same, Skull Shaking Bellow is the same, and then Destructive Bulk is the same. Your Orruk Mega Boss, 4-inch move, 7 wounds, 3+ save, Bravery 8, Boss Chop on Ripatooth. He can have 2 people get a command from him instead of 1 with his Ear Splitting Bellow. He's got 8 attacks, 3s and 3s -1/2 damage. Dead Fighty, if this unit is destroyed in combat, he can immediately fight before it's removed from play. And then Strength from Victory. At the end of the combat phase, if any models were slain by a wound caused by an attack made with this weapon, or this unit, you get to add +1 wounds and +1 attacks. Your guys get bigger the more they fight. War Chanta, 4-inch move, 4+ save, 6 wounds, Bravery 7. 6 attacks, 3s and 3s, D3 damage. Violent Fury, in your hero phase, pick a friendly Ironjaws unit wholly within 15 of this unit. Until your next hero phase, add 1 of the damage inflicted by their melee weapons. Can't benefit more than once. War Beats, when you pick this unit to be part of your army, you can pick 1 of the following War Beats for it to know. So it only knows 1. Either the Fixing Beat, to pick a friendly model within 12 and heal D3 wounds, or the Get 'em Beat, which is if it's successful, this War Beat can be attempted at the start of the charge phase. If it's successful, pick a friendly Ironjaws unit wholly within 12 of this unit. In that charge phase, you can attempt to charge with the friendly Ironjaws. If it's within 18, you roll 3d6 instead of 2d6. And then finally, the Kill a Beat. If it's successful, pick an enemy unit within 12, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks that target that enemy unit. So your Orruk Warclans needs to be dedicated to a single job, basically. Weird Knob Shaman, 5+ save, 6 wounds, Bravery 6, got a Wastoff. And the Warchanter's got 6 attacks now, 3s and 3s, D3 damage. 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, -1 D3. He can cast 1, unbind 1. Brutal Power, if this unit's within 12 of 10 or more Ironjaws models, it can attempt to cast Green Puke in addition to all of its other spells. And even if it's already attempted to cast Green Puke. Green Puke, casts on 6 and range of 2d6. If cast, pick a point in the battlefield and within range invisible. Draw a line between that and this caster's base. Each unit with the model across that line takes D3 mortal wounds. Got your Orruk Brutes, 4-inch move, 4+ save, 3 wounds, Bravery 6. They can have Brute Choppas or Jagged Gorhakas. All models must be armed with the same weapon. 1 every 5 can have a Gore Choppa. So Brute Choppas, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1/1 damage. Jagged Gorhakas, 2 attacks, 2-inch range, 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -2/1 damage. And the Gore Chop is the big damage too. It only hits on 4s though, but it's 3s to wound and -2 damage. Boss Chop is 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1/2 damage. And the Boss Claw and Brute Smasher, 4 attacks, 4s and 3s, -1/2 damage. Umessin, enemy models with a wound characteristic of 1, they're within 3 of this unit, cannot contest objectives. So that's amazing. So zombies can't can't contest objectives. So anyone with 1 wound, grots or goblins, can't contest objectives against orc brutes. That is an insane ability. And then the big things, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by this unit if the target has a wound characteristic of 4 or more. You messin might be the most insane ability so far in this book. Sure, you got 1 wound, you're within 3, you can't contest objectives. Orruk Warclans, so these are the basic guys. 2 wounds, 4+ save, bravery 5, 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, 1 damage. Standard Bearer gets a Gorkamorka glyph, +1 bravery, +1 attack for your champion, +1 to charge rolls for your musician. And then drawn to the wall, if this unit's champion issues the rally command to this unit while it's within 12 inches of a friendly war chanter, it can return a slain model on a 4+ instead of 6. That's pretty cool. And then Orruk Forged Shields, they get a 6+ ward save if there's a model that has an Orruk Forged Shield. Orruk Warclans, 9-inch move, 4+ save, bravery 6, 5 wounds each. Pig Iron Choppas, 1-inch range, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 damage. Jagged Gorehackas, 2 attacks, 2-inch range, 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 damage. And the Tusken Hooves, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 damage, but no rend. Champions get an extra attack. And the Gorgon to charge, after a model in this unit finishes a charge move, roll a die for each unit within 1 inch. Add 1 if they have a Jagged Gorehacka. On a 3+, take a mortal wound. So 2+ mortal wounds, that's pretty cool. This unit has more than 1 model. Roll to determine if mortal wounds are caused after each model finishes its charge move, but do not allocate the mortal wounds until after all the models in this unit have finished their charge move. So you can't just charge them all in and then roll. Special unit, Morgrok's Crushes, Beat Bashes. They have 3 wounds for Morgrok and his Crushes. They have Gore Bashes, 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, -1, 2 damage. Smashes, 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, no rend, 1 damage. And then the Boss Choppa, 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage. He's the unit champion, Morgrok. Beast Bashes, the first time a monster is destroyed by an attack made by this unit, add 1 to the wound rolls for the rest of the battle. And then Death with the big things, +1 to hit against wounds of 4 or more. Iron Skulls boys, they're still terrible. We're into the irons, or the Bone Splitters now. Wargrog Prophet, 7 wounds, 5+ save, bravery 8. His staff has 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, -1 D3 damage. Can cast 2, unbind 2. Has a Squiggly Beast and a Fanged Maw. 2 attacks, 4+, 3+, and 1 damage with no rend for that Fanged Maw. His Wargrog Mask, at the start of the hero phase, instead of attempting to dispel an endless spell, pick an enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit that's visible to it and roll a dice. On a 3+, they take D3 mortal wounds. So instead of casting any spells, you just stare at them, and they, on a 3+, take D3 mortal wounds. Can't be dispelled. If you can wish, you can say this unit will continue staring. If you do so, roll an additional dice. On a 3+, the unit takes D3 mortal wounds, but on a 1 or 2, you take D6 mortal wounds. And you can keep staring until you either destroy the enemy or decide to stop. So you have infinite eye lasers, but they might kill you. I mean, yeah, I'd risk it. How many points is a Wargrog Prophet? Just take Wargrog Prophets, 150 points. And you just run them into range in the first turn, and then second turn, you Care Bear stare everything to death. That's an insane ability. There's no stopping it either, just 3+. 12-inch range. Fistic Orc, it's a spell that has a casting value of 5 and a range of 24. If you cast it, pick an enemy unit within range invisible and roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in that unit. For every 6, take a mortal wound. If the casting roll is a 10+, though, it's a 4+ for a mortal wound. Savage Orc Big Boss, 5-inch move, 6+ save, a 6 wounds, bravery 7. 6 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage, pretty stabby. And he's got Let Me At Him. After this model's fought in combat phase for the first time, pick a friendly Bone Splitters unit that has not yet fought in that combat phase. And it's wholly within 3 of an enemy, and it's wholly within 12 of this unit, and that unit fights immediately. So he doesn't fight twice himself, he chain fights a Bone Splitters unit with him. And then a Mechanic Weird Knob, sorry. 12-inch move. He's got a 6+ save, 6 wounds, and bravery 7. His Bone Beast Staff, 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, -1 D3. Tusks and Hooves, 4 attacks, 4s and 4s, 1 damage. Cast 1, unbind 1. He has a Bone Spirit. Cast on 7, range of 12. If cast, pick a friendly Bonesplittaz unit, wholly within range invisible, until your next hero phase, plus on a wound. Why would you take that one? You could just take the slog off. And then Tusker Charge, add 1 to hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks made with tusks and hooves by this unit if they make a charge in the same turn. Wardock, 5-inch move, 6+ save, bravery 7, 5 wounds. His Bone Beat Stick, 4s and 3s, -1 D3 damage with 1 attack. Cast 1, unbind 1. I like that old metal model is still in existence. Ritual Dance, at the end of your hero phase, instead of attempting to dispel an endless spell or cast any spells, you can just do a dance instead. Grimdock Dance, pick a friendly Bonesplittaz unit within 12 and roll a dice. On a 3+, heal D3 wounds. Glyphdock Dance, pick a friendly Bonesplittaz unit within 12 and roll a dice. On a 3+, add 1 to save rolls for attacks target the bearer. I mean, you have a 6+ save normally, why bother? And then Weird Dock Dance, pick a friendly Bonesplittaz wizard within 12 inches and roll a dice. On a 3+, add 1 to their casting, dispelling, and undying roll. Unbinding rolls. Nobody can be affected more than once. A lot of things in here that don't require casting, which means they get around all those great dispels. And then we're into the core units here. Savage Orcs, 2 wounds, 5+ save, bravery 5, primal surge, +1 a wound if they make a charge in the same turn. They've got Chompas and Savage Stickas, so you can have melee. The Chompas are... oh wait, are they Chompa or Savage Sticka? So you can have a sword which is 2 attacks, 4s and 3s, 1 damage, or a 2-inch range, 2 attacks, 4s and 4s, 1 damage. Your boss gets +1 attack. The standard bearer gets 10 bravery +1, and then +1 to charge rolls for your musician. So you're already on 2s with your Chompa or 3s with your Savage Sticka. Worth doing. Kruleboyz, 3 wounds each, 5+ save, 12-inch move. Same Chompas and Savage Stickas stats. Tusks and hooves are 3 attacks, 4s and 4s. Tusker Charge, +1 to hit and wound rolls if you made a charge move in the same turn with your Savage Sticka or Tusks and hooves, but not with the Chompas. So reason to not take the Chompas. And it's +1 to hit and wound, so you'd be 3s and 3s with the Stickas. Big Sticka, move 5, 6+ save, 4 wounds, bravery 6. Gorktooth, range 3, attacks 3, 3s and 3s, -2, 2 damage. The Final Fling, each time a model in this unit is slain by an attack with a melee weapon before the unit's removed, pick an enemy unit within 3 and roll a die. Add 2 if it's a monster. On a 4+, take D3 mortal wounds when they die. And then your Morboys, Chompa and Shivtooth. They've all got Chompas and Tooth Shivs. Morboy Fury, that +1 attack if they charged. There are 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, 1 damage. Standard is +1 bravery, +1 to charge rolls for the Thumper. And then Maniacs, they're armed with Chompas, and then Tusks and Hooves on the back for the Riders. 6+ save, 3 wounds. Tusker Charge, +1 to hit rolls and wound rolls for your Tusks and Hooves. Add 1 to your attacks with your Chompas if you charge in the same turn. Arrowboys, Stinger Bows are 18-inch range, 2 attacks, 5s and 4s, 1 damage. Bone Shivs are still pretty terrible. Improve the rend, however, of your Stinger Bow if your target's a monster. And then Hendraka, the Gobagork. He's by himself, and then his Mad Mob is separate. He's got 7 wounds. He casts 2, unbinds 2, which is pretty cool. His Squiggly Snake is armed with the Fang Maw. He's -1 hit in melee with his mask. He's got an eye for weakness. In your hero phase, pick an enemy unit within 18 of this unit and visible. Until your next hero phase, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by this unit that targets that enemy unit. In addition, until the next hero phase, add 1 to hit rolls for the Mad Mob targeting them. And then Venomous Bite, if an unmodified hit with the Fang Maw is a 6, does a mortal wound and the sequence ends. And Bone Crusher, cast on 6, range 24. If cast, pick an enemy unit within range and visible of the caster. If that unit's within 6 of the caster, takes D6 mortal wounds. If the unit's within is more than 6 for away, and within 12, it takes D3 mortal wounds. And if it's more than 12, it takes 1. Not a bad 2 cast to spell cast for a character unit. And then the Mad Mob are basically just a mixed unit of Savage Orcs. We're into pitch battle profiles. So battle line choices are Gut Rippers, Ardboys, Brutes, and Savage Orcs. And then Savage Orcs are Arrowboys, Savage Orcs with Chompas and Savage Stickas, and more boys. So those are your choice. Those are all three of those qualify as being Savage Orruks. And then you've got Artillery, which is the Beast or Killboy. For 130 points, with the number of monsters in the game right now, I think you take that every single game. Gut Rippers, still 180 for 10. Ard Boys, 85 for 5. Brutes are 160 for 5. Orruks, Savage Orruks are 165 for 10. And that's any of the types. Break a Boss on My Brute Trogoth is 180. Headrak is 220, and his Mad Bob is included in that. Great Gnash Tooth is 170. Kill a Boss with Stabgrot's 110. Maniac Weird Knob is 100. Merc Knob with a Belcher Band is 95. Mega Boss is 140. War Chanter is 115. Weird Knob Shaman is 90. Savage Big Boss is 65. So cheap for what he does. Swamp Collar Shaman with a Potgrot's 105. Still really cheap. Characters are so cheap. Wardok is 80. Wargrog Prophet's 150. Gobsprak, the Mouth of Gork is 300, but Gordrak is 560. Kill a Boss with the Corpse Ripper Vulture is only 240 points. The flying guys are pretty cheap, actually. Cragnose, the End of Empires, is 720. Mega Boss on a Mock Crush is only 480. Now, the Snatcher Boss on a Sledgeraker Beast is 315, and Scumdruck is only 5 points more. But I think you still take the Snatcher Boss because he has access to all the command traits and stuff, and your trait ability. Slittas are 80 points and still not worth it. They're not any kind of battle line. I don't know why you'd take them. Iron Skulls Boys are 80. Manskewer Bolt Boys are 120, and they're battle line and big yellows. Maw Crusher Slogoth, 150 and amazing. Yeah, so good. Morgox Crushes, 90 for 3. Orc Gorgondas are 150 for 3, and battle line and a Bloodtooth's army. Savage Big Stabbers are 80 for 2. Savage Boar Boy Maniacs are 145 for 5. Boar Boys, 5 for 140, and their battle line in an Icebone army where you do mortal wounds with your damage. Savage Orc Arrow Boys are 145 for 10, battle line in a Bone Grins army. Savage Orc Moor Boys are 155 and battle line in a Dragfoot army. Sorry, I was wrong. They're all battle line. It's different. Each one is in a different faction. So the Boar Boys, Arrow Boys, and Moor Boys, depending on which of the sub-factions you take. And then Allied Gloomspike Gets. So good. Well, a lot to unpack here. Oh, and the last but not least thing is, for the first time ever, codes in here for unlocking the Battletome rules digitally in the AOS app. So a lot to unpack. I mean, for the most part, the sub-factions still do what they do. A lot of the specific like gear and stuff that made you like almost unkillable, all of your 2+ save cabbages are going to be gone. They won't be existing anymore, but people will get used to that. The ability to issue multiple commands for the Ironjaws is huge, especially considering the move during the hero phase is a command, so you can have 3 units do it. And Gordrak can do it to 3 units anywhere on the table, because I think he's got unlimited range for his command abilities, which is just bananas. Where are you, Gordrak? Gordrak, yeah. Voice of Gork. Oh, sorry, he picks 3 friendly units. Where's his range? Oh, he'd be the general, so he'd be 18-inch range. And he's always your general, even if someone else is your general, which is amazing too. So you don't lose on your command traits for that guy. That actually goes across all of the big special character heroes in here. I feel like they all function pretty much the same way they did, with various improvements to the individual units. So like your basic ability to actually crack armor has gone way up for the mega bosses and the whatchamacallits, the Orc Brutes, with a lot of rend going into there, which is a problem for them before. They still have that crazy mobility. The Wa is still interesting with lots of abilities to generate Wa points and stuff like that. And overall, I don't feel like one of these came out ahead of the others. They changed the other two enough. If I was to say there's probably a loser in here, it's probably the Bonesplittaz, but they do have some neat magic and neat abilities that make them interesting, I think, probably still as an army by themselves. The Big Wog lets you pick and mix and match, but you can still mix and match otherwise. You don't have to all have the same keyword. You just don't get the benefits of whatever your allegiance is by taking them. So, like, for instance, I think that Ironjawz armies are going to love having a Maw Crusher or Marsh Crawler Slogoth in there for +1 hit across the whole table. Why not? There's a lot of like synergy, I think, between these different factions. It's going to be a contender, and it's exciting. It's the first Battletome for this book. I'm going to be working on my Kruleboyz going forward, and probably adding in and mixing and matching a few new units. and obviously painting up some stuff to go with my my ogres and stuff as well, which is my big destruction army. So there it is, a first look at Destruction Battletome Orruk Warclans. I'm gonna make the same comment I made about the Stormcast book, is because you can make multiple different kinds of interesting armies out of this list, and my brain doesn't just default to, oh, I think this one's the best. Like, the fact that the brutes stop 1-wound models from contesting objectives is just insane. There's so many different reasons to take different things in this book. I think there'll be a lot of like crunching down on what's in here for people to be able to make some interesting lists. And I think there's more than one interesting competitive list that can come out of this book. And that to me is a success. I want every Battletome. I like that the initial stuff was streamlined down. It makes the picking in between them easier. And I like that every Battletome in this edition so far, including the Stormcast, because only 2, is going to be able to do different stuff. So there you go. Big thanks for watching. We'll see you for more of this in the future. It's been a mash. Have a good day. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that video. There are tons of other games already recorded for you to watch. Click over to my channel page if you haven't already, and have a look to the dozens of playlists full of videos. I guarantee you'll discover a game you haven't seen played before. I put out new videos 7 days a week, and every day is themed to a different genre as I continue to explore the wider world of gaming. Of course, none of that's possible without you, the viewer, so click a like and subscribe if you'd like to stay on top of what's happening here daily. My 2 kids and I are massively grateful to be able to have the flexibility of this job so I can always maximize my time with them. If you want to support me continuing to put out this content, it's only possible because of my amazing backers on Patreon who support the studio, equipment, and model cost, as well as being how I make the bulk of my living. You can also help out by buying a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, a measuring gauge or widget from Death Ray Designs, or buying one of my games and supplements like Last Days, Gamma Wolves, and Blaster. As a way of showing my appreciation, patrons get early access to new games and supplements that I write throughout the course of the year. Huge thanks for watching, it really does help out, and happy gaming.